Namaste for all of you, distinguished persons here, especially to Bharat Lalmina and Rupa Vasudevan, who took all the trouble to bring all of us here. The subject I am dealing here is what you call as the global engagement of the traditional studies. When people speak of culture, they always think only of entertainment, the music, the dance, the painting, and other things. My argument here is culture develops and envelops all life. Today we are all fascinated with the word development today. That is the idea. Everybody wants good roads, this, that, and that sort of thing. But people never ask the question that a different, there are 192 countries in this world today. Therefore, they are all different in some sense. And therefore, you ask a simple question. Hey, what is it that differentiates per country to country? A nation state is simply a geographical entity, but it is its culture that envelops, that empowers that country. I am very happy to be here because I was born in India, spent 25 years of my life, mostly education in India, 17 years, and then went to United States, stayed 35 years as a professor there, and came back 25 years ago. Therefore, I have in some sense, I have what you may call as a global view of the some parts of the world, not completely. So the question is, many of you may not disagree with me, but India has had a culture for about 6,000 years, for which I can give you dates for you, not casual and that sort of thing. For example, it was, even though many of you may not like the Bengaluru today, therefore in India, earlier days we had this city with excellent drainage systems, cleanliness and that sort of thing. That was only 4,000 years ago. Therefore, the point I want to say is, many of you may not be computer wallas, but what computer walla is, 1982, for example, when Indians went to United States and talked to the IBM people that we can do programming for you at a much lower rate, they laughed at him. We always thought India was a country where all the snakes and everything are shown. Do you think you can do programming? That's the idea. But what happened? Within 20 years, the IBM chairman in Bangalore, 2003, basically said, if a company doesn't come to India, they are gone. So, what is the difference? What is the idea that something has happened in only 30 years? Remember, I speak India, we speak not of centuries, but a millennia. That is the idea. After all, how long did British Empire last? 250 years. Roman Empire, 200 years. Mughal Empire, 200 years. That's all. So we didn't want to build any empire. We didn't go outside of India, even though the biggest Hindu temple is in Cambodia. That is this idea. And if you go to Thailand, the architecture there is very interesting. It's not allowed in India itself, but there it is. So my argument is, first of all, I will take 5 minutes. I asked our Bharat Lalmina, he said I could take a little bit more than 5 minutes, 25, 20 minutes. And basically he said, you see, first thing is, what is the important things of India? That is this question. All of you are familiar with the word W-O-R-L-D, the world. But nobody knows of its meaning. In India, in Sanskrit, it is known as Jagat. Jagat means there's a Ja is there, Gati is there. Gati is movement, Ja is born. This world is something which is born every minute. It is continuously changing. That is the whole idea. Since we are used to the idea of continuous change, we are not worried about happenings at all. Happenings come. So what I want to tell you, our dynamics is 4 steps. Happenings come. I don't know how I am born, where I am born. Did I choose my brothers and sisters? Community? No, sir, we don't know. Things happen. And then what happens? I have to learn about myself, learning. Then next step is I have to change. If you want something, I have to change. And then the steps comes again, new happenings. Therefore, and I had first of all, after coming to birth in a country happening, I had to accept it. We in India accepted the idea, British were there. They were eager to destroy our civilization, as our history books tell us. What is this? So first is happening, second is acceptance, third learning, fourth change. Therefore, these are the key steps of how a civilization evolves, a civilization develops, a civilization survives all the problems and that sort of thing. So these, for example, British came, unfortunately, I don't worry how it came happening. We accepted it. Then what did we do? Hey, come on, let us see. We sort of learned about their language, their culture, and that sort of thing. Then we said, hey, we can do all those things much better. That's how we started, and therefore so many methods were there. And therefore, you see, for example, to understand the British psychology, I'll give you an example. The head of the British government in India was called Viceroy. The last one was a Mountbatten. Earlier was Wavell. Earlier was Lithgow. The Lithgow said in 1938, no problem, India will be ours for all the time. But what happened? Within 9 years, they had to quit. That is his idea. He made a statement in 1938, 1947, it became independent. So we have to understand, British learned about India at all. We learned about Britain, about Western culture, but they didn't learn anything at all. That's the fundamental point. And now they are back into the small island now, and that's it. So the argument I tell is, this happening, this culture, first is happening, second is acceptance, third is learning, fourth is change. In learning and change, the most important thing is asking the simple question. What are the values, permanent values? As the world changes, permanent values for which you have to learn and change. We can't give up the old values. India has survived for all these times because she has stuck to some fundamental principles. That is the point I want to tell people again and again. For example, recently, there was a big conference on environment and that sort of thing. They had their 40th anniversary someplace in Europe and that sort of thing, in America. And therefore, they were saying, what are the most important things they have to do? I'm very happy to tell you, those 4 things are what we were taught in our ancient books. You see, that is this idea. The first thing is, this earth doesn't belong to the human beings alone. It belongs to the trees, to the animals, and everybody else. They was much right. First point, the idea that we are not the owners of this earth. All the resources here we can't say. And the second point Indians always made was, by all means, be prosperous. No problem at all. We have to be prosperous. That's what society is meant for. Prosperity for all. But at the same time, please don't stand in the way of another person's prosperity. If you go on focusing on negative points, you are going to be doomed. Positive. Good for me and good for you. That is the idea of prosperity for all people. That we always stood for that fundamental idea of prosperity. Third point we went was the importance of the trees. That is the idea, The difference between the trees and the human beings is trees all the time give their shade, give their fruits and everything, and we destroy the trees. That is this idea. When I was growing up in Bengaluru, there was 1 tree per person. Now it is 0.2 trees per person. That is the idea. You may say, what is the importance of trees? I tell you, these hurricanes and that sort of thing is not a new phenomenon. It has been, but that is hitting us all the time. But let us say even 200 years ago, people never thought there was so much havoc at all. Take the west coast, for example, the eastern coast, where the hurricanes come from the Bay of Bengal, for example. In those days, near the ocean, there were these big trees. The trees go down all the way down. Therefore, when the hurricane hit, the waterfalls, simply these trees blocked them. Therefore, it didn't. And then what happened? The water went down and it charged the aquifers anyway. Therefore, the damage done was almost zero. Damage started with people becoming all clever. This land is there, let us clear all the trees, let us have a beach. Everybody enjoys it. Oh, we are all rich people, let us build big apartments and that sort of thing. Therefore, they cut off all the trees, and lo and behold, now they are complaining, hurricane comes, there is so much water inside the town. Why? Because you cut off all the trees. Therefore, in India, there is a saying, that planting a tree is more important than having a son. That is the idea. It is the Padma Purana saying, basically, that is the idea. Therefore, that basic idea is there, the idea, the importance of trees. Not only importance of trees, importance of all vegetable life. For example, one of my friends, if he passed away, Narayan Reddy, he was a very, very successful farmer, and with money, so many things. He was always saying, all of us, most people, especially in the western side, they think of a salad as some green stuff and you swallow it. That is the idea of a salad. And you ask, what is a weed? Anything which we don't know is a weed. That's it. So what do? You kill the weed. That is the whole culture of the West. In our case, for example, we call most of the things are edible things. And we call it in Kannada, soppu. Some of the Kannada people will know it here. There are 40 different types of soppu, which if you cook mildly and drink, it has health qualities, taste and everything else. Now in Bengaluru, all the ladies who work in the software industry, they want to go to their mother place hundreds of miles away just so that we can drink the saru made up of the soppu. That is the idea. So I wanted to collect the names of the 40. I talked to him. Finally, I got at least 30 of them. How old ladies, just as they don't carry plastic bags and that sort of thing, the sari is there. The sari, they can make small bundles of it. They pick up the one and put it here, 30 types and 40 types. That is our Indian culture here. We didn't think of even using bags even. That is the idea. And therefore, the idea finally is, don't complain, I don't have this, I don't have this. Don't do this complaining. Rather ask the simple question. Am I using all the resources I have now? Therefore, we have plenty of sunlight. For example, when C.V. Raman, the first Asian to get a Nobel Prize in physics, he said, you have so much of sunlight, therefore why not we use it as a basic source? Therefore, his work was based on the use of the sunlight with spectroscopy and that sort of thing. That is the idea. Therefore, now only we are awakening to the idea, with sunlight we can have so much of power. For example, with all the nuclear problem, how much electricity does nuclear power give? Not only 5%. Now it is as solar electricity, we are planning to have 25%. What is it? Because we were sleeping all the 70 years. You forgetting such a thing exists. You always complaining, oh, it is so hot here. That is the whole idea. It's the complaining so hot here. Why not you ask this question? How can we tap it? That is the idea. Therefore, for example, people always complain, go to Rajasthan on the border, you see. It is considered as a sort of a desert place. No, thank you, it is not a really desert. There is a small amount of rainfall which falls for about 10 days a year. Only 10 days a year. But how come there are palaces there? How come, for example, there are big lakes there? How come? That is this question. because they saved every drop of water which falls within the 20 days. That is the idea. And we had there, for example, there is in the Rajasthani, they call the lakers a sar. There is a Garas sar, this sar, that sar. All these sars are there. But one of the sars is very interesting. The person who built it, of course, he started it. Of course, wars came. Of course, he was killed in the battle. His wife continued. But this Kumbhakarna was a famous Sanskrit writer also. He has wrote a book in Sanskrit on the elements of grammar and the elements of dance. That's what this guy, great guy, did. His name is Kumbhakarna, about 1500 and that sort of thing. Therefore, India, we know so little of the greatness of India. And therefore, these people were saying in this big international conference, they were saying, don't worry about all of these things, this petrol and that sort of thing. See, the general theory is, any material you get down below, it will have health problems. Therefore, more we go from the top, much less health problem. Therefore, this petrol and that sort of thing, they are helping you instantly. Therefore, we have to ask the simple question. Distinguish from what we call the instant things. Instant coffee, instant tea, everything instant. From, on the other hand, focus on those things which are sustainable over not 100 years, over millenniums. Therefore, we have started, we have been living on the 6th millennium, and therefore, hopefully we will continue. If we practice at least 4 of these, respect for all living forms, respect for all the nature gives, wind gives, wind is there, electricity is all over there, and make sure. And the question was always asked, India have 2 big words in English. Is what is called as knowledge. And people said, we are all backward. We should have literacy first. So what is more important? Is knowledge important or literacy important? My argument is everybody must have basic literacy. Counting 1 to 10 and counting the numbers and headlines and that sort of thing. Apart from this, as our person who originated our space program, Vikram Sarabhai, was saying, knowledge is much more important because we are an oral culture. Therefore, I don't know something. For example, I see a space probe or I will see something on the well. I ask a neighbor, hey, what is it? He will answer. Before Vikram Sarabhai was saying, every good thing with another person, it will be transmitted to 20 or 30 different persons. The idea, that is what is called as the oral culture. That is this idea. Therefore, as a matter of fact, in Kannada, we have a lady, Bhima Devi. And in northern Karnataka, she lived about 800 years ago. She is basically illiterate. She could not read anything. But she is the author of 20,000 poems. It came out of her mouth, and then local person said, hey, he sent somebody, wherever she opens her mouth, write it down. 20,000. Therefore, the idea of literacy is not so important as telling people what are the possibilities. That is the most, then once possibility is there, then we will think of something else and Sanskrit and that sort of thing. So my argument for all of us is this basic fundamental ideas of Hindu, that is Indian culture, respect for all forms of life, without envy, developing all things, and all forms of knowledge. Grammar is important, everything is important. For example, people now speak English as a universal language. But the point is, I will give you a simple example I used to teach when I was a professor in Peru a long time ago. Ram gave Peter a telescope on the hill. Very simple. The legal question is, to whom does the telescope belong? Does it belong to the Peter or does it belong to the hill? Is the telescope mounted on the hill or the telescope hanging on the boat? Answer is no. So, English is not such a precise language as you think of. It's a commercial language, that's all. Like with cell phones, and that's commercial language. Therefore, in some sense, I tell people, you learn a little bit of Sanskrit. A busy man like Vikram Sarabhai, he could learn read Sanskrit of Kalidasa in original, not in the translation and that sort of thing. Therefore, in some sense, we can always find time to do all of those things, learn Sanskrit, learn the fundamentals of our civilization, learn in some sense, and those people finally said, the people don't understand if he, for example, by putting more fertilizers into the ground, you don't get more output. United States is always a good example. I was there for 35 years. The idea is, fertilizer use started in 1950. Let us suppose they used 100,000 pounds, let us say. In 1980, they used 1,000 times more. But the point was the damage due to the pests became increased by 5%. It was 9% before, it was 13% earlier. What does it say? It says nature creates a new forms of pests so that it will defeat your purpose. Therefore, don't focus on the idea of, shall we say, destroying the pests. No. The answer is allow the pest to something else. As many people have said, yesterday Vijayawani, there was a poor idea. That guy was using electricity power and that sort of thing. No, behold, they went someplace else. Therefore, use think ideas of thinking of only killing and that sort of thing. Get away from that. I'm very happy that in last 5 years, I get more information out of my Kannada journals than I could get out of my English journals. So I'm very happy about that particular idea. And therefore, I'm all happy. Thank you for hearing to my talk. I have a little problem with my hearing. If I can't answer the oral questions, but if you can send you your stuff by email, I'll be happy to answer you. Or you put your questions and this person or somebody else here will say, no problem, I'm after all a professor. Even today, that disease has not stopped. People write me questions, say you said this, you said this, you said this. I have to say, yes, I said this, I said this, I said this, and then I give you the explanations of what is the meaning of all the words. Therefore, I'm very happy I'm in here, this international audience. There is the distinguished ambassador from the set of Bosnia and other things, all the distinguished visitors are there. So I'm happy to be in the company of such distinguished people, and therefore at least give them a little idea of the strength of the Indian culture. And therefore my point is that same idea, every country should worry about their culture. For example, we speak of global. I will stop for a minute. 1,000 years ago, two priests all the way came from China, Fa Hian and Huinet Song, and toured all over India to know more about Buddhism. Then the Chinese king invited two Indians and said, you come to us, you learn Chinese, you teach us. That's his whole idea. Therefore, the idea was, as a matter of fact, people always ask this question, you speak of, the 4 Vedas is about something like 25,000 mantras. And therefore, Hinet Sang had heard that statement. He says, that's an exaggeration. Who will remember all of them? Then he met a person who could recite all of them. You tell him a particular word, he will complete it. Then he said, no, these Indians are not exaggerating. Remember, it's not part of Jainism. It's not a Buddhism. It's part of regular Hinduism. The 4 Vedas, 25,000 mantras. Then he said, no, such people do exist in India. Therefore, when I went to United States, my graduate students always asking the question, how did you develop your memory? For example, I would tell them, hey, go and read this paper. I didn't see it. Then I would give them page number from memory. 2031, then they would say, yes, sir, it was there. My usual question was, how did you develop your memory? I told them, I don't develop memory. Our culture means we go on reciting so many different litanies. I can memorize about 1,000 verses and that sort of thing. And just reciting this litany from the age of 3 or 4 has developed my memory, not by any special mechanism and sort of thing. And thank you all for listening.